about sushi, it sounds gross. It's like raw fish with seaweed and fish eggs and spicy mayo. Like it sounds gross if you think about it, but then you try it. It's like, oh, that's actually really good. I love sushi. And so we tend to judge things before even giving it a shot. And most of us don't get enough experiences. It's like you probably don't want the life that your parents had. If you look at their life now, it's like you probably don't want to be that. But it's the path that most of us are heading down. So the difference is, are you getting enough other experiences? And so you try it once and you see, and maybe you hate it, and maybe you're right, maybe that's the worst thing of all time, but you won't know until you actually start doing it.
Hey there, and welcome back to the Oz Shift podcast. And as always, I'm your host, Anthony Trucks. And as always, we got a great guest today. This is an individual that I met a few years back in, I think it was Puerto Rico, man. It was like by the beach somewhere, and there's this cool guy wearing his arm sleeve. I'm like, what's he, like a football player? Because, us football players, we do this thing. But no, what I got
You did not think I was a football player.
Yeah, I did. You
There's
never
no
know,
way
man.
you looked at my physique and said, this guy's a football player. That's you are being very generous.
You got punters, you got quarterbacks, you got wide receivers. You'd be surprised.
I'm the punter. Oh my gosh. Okay, great. Perfect. What an intro. I love this.
You never know. What's funny is I was with my wife. We were at the Grand Sierra Resort recently, and this guy was walking by, and I got this weird, knack for catching guys that I feel like are players. And there's a guy about 6'2", 6'3", a little taller than me. Walks by, I go, I think that's Richard Sherman. My wife goes, no, his legs are way too skinny. Sure enough, was Richard Sherman. So believe me, man, there's some guys that are not as big as you think that are out there playing the game. But anyways, man, so you're a guy that I've known for many years, and you've been seriously a guy that pours your heart out in helping people to an extent that almost seems like if you don't know you, like the guy's got to be doing it for something. But it's not. It's nothing more than just you genuinely have this crazy rooted desire to help people do great things, myself included, man. You guys don't notice this man has multiple times hopped on the phone with me for like an hour of his own free will, nothing benefiting him, and just broke down areas that I can help improve my YouTube presence, because this guy is a YouTube master. Like quite literally, we sit in rooms with people who are, 10 easy 10-figure business owners, and he's the guy they call for YouTube help. And on top of this, we'll call it the brain for YouTube. He's also a soul that serves. And so, man, without further ado, I'm gonna dig into my friend. I can actually say my friend Evan Carmichael. Man, how you doing?
Let's go, man. Sorry I ruined your intro there, but no, this is great. I'm happy to be here. I love you. I love you stepping up. I mean, I'm not a huge sports guy, so I didn't know who you were when we first connected at the in Puerto Rico. But I love the energy and the vibe and the heart and just like the willingness to just do it. It's
Thank
like,
you, man.
Trucks just does it. It's great.
I just do things, man. I make shit happen,
and
dude.
runs with it. Yeah. So I love that you're doing this and you're putting out content and you're sharing. And for me, the passion is, I want to solve the world's biggest problem. People don't believe in themselves enough, and people will only listen to my story, in a certain way. But people can connect with you in a way that they won't connect with me. Sure. And I'm like, man, we need trucks to be out in the world.
Especially with all the people being connected, and most people don't know this, and I make sure I let people know all the time. People go, man, just yesterday someone's like, your studio, it's beautiful, and I go, oh man, well, you know what, my guy Evan Carmichael, he I had a message to share, and he was talking to me. He's like, hey, I don't like it. He's like, if you're gonna do it, like do it right. I think that's what your exact words were, like, make it look like you did it on purpose. I was like, oh, okay. But that's the thing. I also like that you're able to have these conversations and improving people, and you don't butter things up, man. There's an interesting candor to how you share and you speak, and I think it's a respected thing by me because I played sports, and we don't beat around the bush, man. We get direct to it, and you can do that in a way that doesn't feel like you're attacking somebody, but it also helps me go, you're right, So it's kind of a cool skill, and I want to dive into all that. You didn't ruin my intro, by the way, because you can't ruin an intro because I don't have them planned. But here's a question I want to start with, and I think this will open up the gates for where we'll go after that. But here's a question I always ask people as my voice wants to tune out and come back in. If I was walking around town, say I'm in Canada, which I've never been to for some reason. I'm in Canada hanging out. Right. I think I'm going here pretty soon. I got a cruise to Alaska in like 2 weeks. I'm gonna stop in the middle of Canada somewhere. I'm going to walk around Canada, sit down next to this cool looking guy. The guy is you. You turn and you start talking to me. I don't know who you are. Why should I listen to you?
Oh man, I don't know. I suck at those things. You shouldn't listen to me unless you're starting a YouTube channel or trying to be an entrepreneur or something. Um, I mean, honestly, if I'm sitting next to you, I'm probably asking about you,
Mm,
or I'm just being introverted and by myself,
yeah,
um, which may not answer your question well. But
that's good.
so like Brendan Burchard's a mutual friend, right?
Yeah,
And
mhm,
I remember when at that event that we went to, it was basically at part of his house,
yeah,
and he forced me to be more active. So on day one, like I'd known Brendan a little bit before that, and
yeah,
on day one before we got started, he's like, "Hey, Evan, you always pour so much into other people and help them.
yeah,
I need you to ask for something today. Like I need you to talk about yourself,
hmm,
and I need you to ask because there's all these awesome humans here who are givers too,
yeah.
and I need you to ask for help." Which was it's weird. Like I don't usually do that. So
No, yeah.
though I appreciated the push, and it was scary, and we did it. But yeah, if I'm sitting next to somebody at a cafe, why should they listen to me? Oh my gosh, I don't know. That question just terrifies me. They shouldn't.
What's funny is I asked that question of another guest who is actually he's a sports commentator. He's like, oh no, I'm deathly afraid. He's like, if I'm talking to you, something's wrong, and it's like an emergency because I don't talk to people out in public. And I'm like, interesting, but you'd be surprised because you're a guy that I know to talk. Since I've known you, which might have been from that window, I've never known you to bite your tongue and not share. And I think it's good, like because I think when you do say things because of that mentality, it's all of value. Like you're only giving things you're not filling the space with random words. And I'm always curious, like, was that a consistent personality trait? Obviously, Brendan told you to kind of speak up and ask for help. But were you a quiet guy during your life? You've always been kind of like an extrovert. Like, what's your personality been over the years?
Oh yeah, I'm super introverted and shy, and this it took me. That's why it took me so long to get going on YouTube,
Oh,
because I don't like the camera. Like I don't come alive on the camera.
yeah.
Um, and the biggest fight I would get into, I have an agent in New York named Steve who he helped Grant Cardone blow up and Mel Robbins blow up and a bunch of thought leaders. And he's like, Evan, you need to be famous. Like I don't want to be famous, dude.
Mm,
And that was our biggest fight for years.
yeah.
And it wasn't until he either said it in a certain way or maybe I just finally wasn't, being a dummy and like could receive it. Where he said, well, the more people know you, the more people will get the message.
Yeah.
And for me, it's always message and impact driven first more than my face being somewhere.
Hmm.
And so once I realized that, like, oh, okay, so the more people know me, the more people will hear my message, which sounds basic, but for the first 5 years, I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
And so I'm great at like two things, and apart from that, I know nothing about everything else. And so luckily, I guess in some of our circles, I have a knowledge on something that people care about.
Yeah.
When I went to that group, it's like, well, what am I gonna? I teach believe, it's what I'm.
Yeah. In your book
It's
and
the whole
everything.
mission that I'm on, and like I'm gonna teach Anthony Trucks to believe in himself more, or like Brendan Burchard to believe in himself. Like, why am I here?
Yeah. Yeah. We do believe
But
in
I realized
ourselves.
no, like the YouTube side, and to the point of the candor, which you said graciously in the beginning, it's what achievers appreciate.
Yeah.
I think for people at the very beginning of their journey, most people they need just the encouragement and the pat on the back and the high five and like you can do this
Yeah.
and get going and create and just the fact that they made a video or they called that person like that's a huge win. The fact that they took any kind of action, and so most of what I do is just cheerleading and encouragement because that's what they're missing is just momentum.
Yeah.
For the achievers, though, it's like you don't need me to say, "Hey, Trucks, like
You
you
could do it.
posted a video, great job,
Yeah.
man." No, it's like okay, that's cool, but you're like, okay, where does it suck? How do I improve it?
Exactly.
And you were asking some questions too. It's like, okay, like be honest, tell me, like rip it apart,
Yeah.
shred it, tell me everywhere it sucks. And so the achievers want more of the push
Hmm.
because they don't need the pat on the back. They're like, how do I get better?
Yeah, and that's a truth. I just had a client I was talking to yesterday where he's like, I got these people who Yeah, they're high level humans. He charges a high rate for his high ticket stuff he does for his doctoral type stairs. But the thing is, he's going through these conversations with people. It's like, man, these people keep asking all these questions, make it difficult. And I was like, just be direct with them. Like the best thing to do is, oh, they're making statements that go, oh, well, I don't want to pay you less than you're worth. I know what you're worth. But there's a way we can kind of, like, they're juxtaposing. What you really need to do is hold them down. They're sick. The tests show they're sick. They're trying to squirm out. Be direct, because people respect direct, in my opinion. Like when I got a guy or a girl who I'm like, wants to work with me, or is like a coach of mine, if you can't just tell me what I need to hear, like, or waiting for me to flash out, you may not be the fit for me. Because if not, you'll beat around the bush. You'll remove the stuff I need to actually improve, and then I don't improve, and then I think we both lose out. But you did allude to something that I'm actually curious about, because I don't think I've ever asked this question of you. Is like, why believe? Why is that your hill you'll die on?
My what? What is that? What did you say?
Why the hill you ever heard of that before? What's the hill that
Oh,
you
the
will die?
hill you'll die on. Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't hear proper. I
oh, my
thought you
bad.
had some like I thought it was a French word or something you said. No, the hill that I'll die on. I like that. Um, I think everybody has a single most important core value,
Hmm.
and when you figure out what that is, it allows you to live a more intentional life. So, like even if you had to pick, what's your most important core value?
Oh man, integrity. It's a big one. Just being
Cool.
of
So
integrity. Period.
I mean that makes sense knowing you. And so now when you're looking at, who do I, whether it's in a relationship with somebody or you're bringing on team, if you're gonna bring on a new video editor for your team, what most people do is just think, do they have the skills that I need? Where for you, that's not enough. They have to be a person of integrity.
Yes, big time.
And when you're around people of integrity, it just allows everything to flow more right. Where if you had the greatest video editor of all time, but they're cutting corners in line or whatever, it's not just about the results. Like how they get it really matters to
Hmm.
you. And so it changes the intention with which you show up. So if you're going to do a job posting now for a video editor, it's like you post a video editor who believes in integrity. Like, and that's the title. And some people will see that and say, that's the stupidest thing of all time.
True.
Who is this guy? And like, cool. Like, don't
Yeah.
apply, right? Like, self eliminate. Thank you. And others would be like, yes, finally, somebody's speaking my
Hmm.
language. And so I think everybody has a single most important core value. And it's the job of finding out what that is for you. And so for me, it's believe. And that becomes the brand, and that like a brand is just an
Yeah.
emotion. So I want people to leave everything that I make with more belief. Uh, I may not accomplish it, but it's the intention in everything that I make.
Yeah.
And so if you could gift integrity to the world, what a great gift to be able to
I
create.
like it. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's
That
the
makes sense.
concept.
So how? And then my brain, like, it's just these podcasts completely unscripted. I'm just going with the flow, man. Because as soon as I hear that, and I go, well, then how do we land on YouTube? Like, what was the vehicle? Why was YouTube the vehicle that said, hey, believe? I believe we should believe in ourselves. And oh, here's this platform. Why not Twitter or Pinterest or Facebook? Why do we go there?
So for me personally, I'm a visual learner. I like to be able to see
Hmm.
stuff. So I don't listen to any podcasts. I'm on a bunch of podcasts, but audio only is the hardest way for me to learn. This is a podcast, but the fact that I can see you
Yeah.
helps, because otherwise I'd be closing my eyes, I'd be covering my ears, because it's just the hardest way for me to
Gotcha.
learn audio
Yeah.
only. When I started in 2009 on YouTube, uh, it was the only video platform. So it wasn't that I knew it was going to be huge.
Yeah.
Like nobody had a million subscribers. Being a YouTuber wasn't even a thing. I was making 6-minute videos, and people were telling me that it was way too long, and I didn't understand how the internet worked, and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's come
A
a
little
long
bit.
way since 2009, but it was just the only visual place at the
Hmm.
time, and I wanted to share. So most of the stuff was either my own, what I had learned, or what I had learned from Steve Jobs or Oprah Winfrey or Kanye West or whoever, and sharing their lessons with the world, because that's what really saved my company. And I thought, like, 50 people watched a video, maybe that changes somebody's life. It was never designed like now. There's a whole business model
Yeah.
around it, right? Like you can create entire mega corporations around it, and people are going to YouTube to learn. It's the education platform
Yeah.
now. So it was very different when I got started. It was just, I want to tell stories, I want to help people, and I like video because it's a visual platform. if you're getting started now and you're trying to figure out where should I be, the strength of YouTube is that it's the only long form video platform around, right? So if you do a video podcast, where are you going to host it?
YouTube.
Like you're not going to post a hour. It's YouTube, and YouTube is now the educational place that people default to.
YouTube.
So if somebody's trying to figure out how
Where I
to
go.
make a big shift in their life, where are they going to go? Are they going to the library? Are they going to talk to their mom? Like they're going to YouTube, and there's like, how do I make a shift? And there's Anthony Trucks, and it's like, I've never heard of this guy, but he's got awesome message, right? And then that's how you start to bring on new people and build your movement up.
Yeah.
All of the other platforms are still great, but they lean in more on the inspirational side. So Instagram, TikTok, it's great. You have a minute to say something really fantastic, and it's just hoping to plant a seed with people, but you're not really making a shift in a minute-long video for people. And so where short form goes, there's lots of different options. There's no a bunch of people tried to come up and make the YouTube killer. There's no YouTube killer out yet, but who knows? In 10 years, we're going to be doing this in VR. I'm going to be hologramming into your room. The technology will change. But right now, if you are an expert, if you're a thought leader, and that's all I focus on, right? I'm not the YouTube guy for like slime channels or makeup tutorials or whatever. It's like education, thought leadership, entrepreneurship, personal development. That's where I live. YouTube needs to be your number one home, because the content lives forever, because you actually get paid by YouTube to do it. And then you can take the best moments from these
so just so you guys know, he's talking about it, because he does it for other humongous names that we don't have to share, but we both know. And it's interesting. It's not that crazy, but it's actually true, and it's not that hard also. I think we look at this big thing of like, oh, it's a behemoth, this YouTube thing, but it's like, if you got something unique to share and you have a way of being you through this vehicle of video, like, you just got to choose the medium and get good at it, and then you can make a huge impact. Why? Because I like that you've clarified. I only work with people that are in the thought leadership world. Was that like because you fell in love with it? Like, was there a part where some individual like changed your perspective or your life with that? Like, why did you land on that? Because not everybody goes like, hey, thought leadership, personal development, that's my world, and for no reason. There's usually some kind of catalyst in the background.
Yeah, the thing that always helped me make breakthroughs was getting a role model and learning from somebody else. And every time, whether it was my first business or getting started on YouTube, with YouTube, it was Steve, and finally listening to my agent, Steve, that I started to grow. And I did 5 years. Like, I'm in year 5 of my YouTube channel. I still have 2,000 subscribers, right? So it's like this was not an overnight success. If people want to see my growth, I put it on the website like year over year how much I grew, or how much I grew, which is like nothing. So I'm not naturally talented, and anytime I tried to do something by myself, it just didn't work. But whenever I sought out role models, mentors, even virtually, even listening to, watching videos, reading books, etc., I would have success. So I just wanted to try to share that more with the world. And when I meet somebody with integrity, like you, it's like, man, like, we got to get Chucks up to the world, dude. What? How is this guy not making content? And I know it was on you. I mean, maybe in a nice Canadian way. Maybe I wasn't direct or pushy enough, but
recently,
in looking at some of your,
the blue, my team, because we were talking
about
you,
YouTube stuff. I don't know, 3
and
or
all
4
of a sudden,
times.
like, did you text him? I was like, I didn't text him. Just the world sent him to me because we were talking about it. But yeah, we didn't move at the pace that we should have in YouTube. We had all these weird little things bubbling around, but we're actually diving in now. We actually have been doing things, getting momentum. It's been great.
And that's everybody, I'm not that I really care about YouTube that much. I care about getting the message out. It's like, I see in you somebody who can help a lot of people, and just the messaging isn't reaching enough people yet. And using some of the things that I know, hey, maybe if I can apply that, and he's going to make the content, whether it's changing the set or just the content or the frequency or questions. Sometimes people just don't know what to do. And so, tomorrow I'm on a call with a couple of our friends too to help them. Like, I've been talking to them for 3 years, and now it's like, okay, I'm ready to take it seriously. Like, okay, yes. How can I help? Let's go. Let's build it up. Yeah. And often it just takes the right conversation at the right time to make the shift, right? Like, they're ready. Okay, let's make the shift. And if I
Yeah,
can help
I
be a
agree, man.
tiny
It's that
little
feeling
spark
of
to help them make that
I
shift, I
think
mean,
people
that's the
think
best feeling in the
altruism
world.
exists, and I don't think it does. The whole thing, like I give you something and I get nothing in return. Like no, you always get, even if it's the pat in the back for myself, going I'd help that person, and knowing how much you care about the industry, like genuinely care about the industry. I know it's great for you to see people finally do the things you've been telling them to do to build up and kind of create something new. And so within this whole process, most who don't know Evan's work, a lot of his work is like him doing phenomenal videos. I love your Q&As on Instagram when you do them too. Like you get these great questions and you answer them so succinctly in 60 seconds. You do have a skill. You may not think you come alive on camera, but from my perspective, like you kill it, right? But I loved how you say, hey, I find people stuff. Like when Clubhouse came out, you would put together like Oprah streams and Grant Cardone streams. Like, how did you get the idea to say, let me compile some of my favorite people, package them together like in a mashup, and just like edit it to that's a straight stream video? 'Cause that's what a lot of your stuff is. It's taking clips from other people's interviews that maybe the world didn't see and putting them in one place so they can find them.
So there's two reasons for that. The first was I wanted it for myself. You know, like Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and these people, you know, saved my business when I was first getting started. And I've never met them, you know, but I learned from their stories. And my first company was a software company that I wanted to quit on. And
Yeah.
I asked myself, who's built a software company before? And the first person I thought of was Bill Gates, who started Microsoft. And like, how did he do it? Learned his strategies,
Yeah.
and then that helped save my company. So, you know, when I meet him, I'll let him know that, hey, you saved my company when I was 19. Thank you, man. And so I still need it for myself. And so I was doing a whole bunch of research and had my team help me pull together clips from people, because some people are if you look at the experts in the, like you're so great at communicating. If you have something on your heart, you can just share it and it's impactful and right to the point. Some people in entrepreneur land are not great communicators. Elon Musk, Richard Branson, like they're not fantastic communicators, and they get asked a whole bunch
Yeah.
of questions that you may
Yeah.
not care about, right? Like I don't care about Tesla's stock price, but I care about his advice to entrepreneurs. And so I would end up watching a 4-hour Elon Musk, conference or something, and only get like 20 minutes of the best stuff that I would learn. So I wanted someone on my team to help me. Like, what if we just pulled out
Yeah.
the best 20 minutes and like make that for me? So I have to watch
Wow.
that. So that was a starting point, but I wasn't sharing that stuff. It was just for me to learn because I wanted to be around it. Because no matter how great yesterday was, you wake up today. At least for me, I wake up today and
Yeah.
it's like I'm starting over, and so I need trucks in my ear or jobs in my ear or Oprah in my ear or whoever. I shared the first one that I shared was on Kanye West, and there's a buddy of mine, one of my oldest friends, made a blog post about the whole Kanye Taylor Swift thing, and it's like so many years later, like why are you still talking? Like who cares? So he did that. Yes, he makes mistakes. Awesome, but you can learn from Kanye, right? I mean, he's a billionaire. Does he get himself into trouble? Yes, but you could also, like, if you could just get rid of don't focus on the bad stuff and learn how he went from being just
Yeah,
a,
for
a
sure.
producer to a rapper to an entrepreneur to a billionaire. Like you could learn from him. One of my favorite stories
Yeah.
is there's John Legend, who comes off as like
Huh.
the nicest guy of all time, right? I don't know John, but his name isn't John Legend. His name is John Stevens. And it's like, okay, well, first
Connected.
off, John Stevens and Kanye are
Yeah.
friends, which already feels weird. Like, how are these guys? It doesn't feel like his right
Right.
personality fit. But John Stevens, at the start of his career, is hanging out in Chicago, where Kanye's from, at a bar, and John Stevens says, I
Yeah.
feel like I'm an old soul. Like I don't belong in this era. I'm like the
Uh,
Sinatra era. I'm an old soul. And Kanye says, you should call yourself the legend. And John Stevens says, nah, I'm like at the start of my career. I'm going to call myself a
mm,
legend. I'm just getting started. And Kanye helped convince him to change his stage name to John Legend.
yeah.
So even if you hate Kanye, you think he's the biggest egotist, or like whatever word, awesome. Like, are you as good a friend to your friends as Kanye was to John Stevens?
Yeah.
Right? And so because my friend Mark
Yeah.
kind of went after Kanye, I said, Mark, you should learn
Mhm.
from Kanye. Like, don't focus on the negative. So I made a
Wow.
top 10 rules for success on Kanye West, really just for my
Yeah.
friend Mark. Like, it wasn't part of a content strategy. I had something else I was doing, but I was so pissed at my friend Mark that
Sure.
that's how he thought that I made that video.
Yeah.
And then people loved it and said, hey, can you do Jay-Z next? Can you do Jeff Bezos next?
Yeah.
Can you do? It's like, Yeah, I like that. That's fun. So I was already kind of collecting stuff for
All of
myself
them.
anyway. Now why not just share it with the world? And it's always positive. If you ever watch any of my stuff, and believe is the theme.
Mm.
It would be a
Yeah,
lot easier for
it
me to
would. Yeah,
grow if I did top 10 Kanye stupidest moments. People would love that stuff, right? But I want
so
to do the extra work to
I
find
like
the
it.
positives that you can
So,
learn from them,
what was your
and
first
then put
company?
out.
Because
I
you
just want
said
to
it a
put
couple
out
times, and I'm
believe
like,
in
I know
positivity
that. I'm like,
content.
I have
So
no idea. I have no idea what you did at 19 years old. Because I'm assuming that that was when you were in that space. You created someone successful enough to get to to the mentality of like, I got to pay attention to this. Like, what was the thing that you were doing before you got into this? Really? Okay.
So I had a biotech software company. I did not start it. Science was my worst subject
Okay.
growing up. I went to
It
university
wasn't. Yeah.
wanting to be a banker. That's what I thought I wanted to be. Also, because entrepreneur wasn't a
Yeah.
thing, like I'm 42. When I was
Unemployed.
19, 18,
Yep.
nobody was an
True.
entrepreneur. It means you couldn't get a job. It's just a different world compared to
Hmm.
now. So yeah, I wanted to be a banker, connect with these two entrepreneurs in university, and they had a business, and they offered me 30% of the company and $300 a month as my salary.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so I didn't even think it was going to work. I just didn't want to live with
Yeah.
regret. I felt like, you know what, I can always get another banking job, but I didn't know if I'd
Smart.
ever have this chance again. So I said yes. It was like the first year was the worst year of my life.
What was your role in the
And I
company
made it
then?
super hard on myself too because I didn't ask for help. I isolated myself, was embarrassed.
Uh,
What was my role? I think my official title was like chief operating officer, but really I
yeah.
was the business guy. I was lining up media, I was lining up customers, I was lining up partnerships. I was just trying to grow the company because I can't code
Yeah.
and I didn't know enough about the actual science
Hmm.
to be a speaker like on the topic. But I was talking to just the business
Yeah.
case and getting my co-founders profiled and getting them featured and helping grow the business. Um, and then it ended up, we did pretty well. So it started when I was 19, sold it when I was
Yeah.
22. Then went into venture capital for a little bit because I was curious. I never had to raise money, and I wanted to know how it worked. And then I started my website, and the website
Yeah.
was just off my name, and then started inviting collaborators to create content, and we built 100,000 plus pages of content, and
Yeah.
then
This
started
is
doing
cool, man.
YouTube, um, and got
I, I,
speaking
I
gigs
I'm
and a
sitting in my
bunch of
head. I'm
stuff.
thinking,
This
how did I
stuff just
not
started
know any of
as
this?
you play and
I guess
stuff
we
just
don't go
starts to
dive
happen.
deep into the past of everything, right? It's usually like here, here forward. And I had no clue you were part of like a company that you sold with the venture. Because if you went to venture capital, you did fairly well. Uh, that's then. How did you not go crazy? At 19, you give most 19-year-olds, I'm going to make an assumption it was seven figures plus, right? You give most 22-year-olds seven figures plus, and they're not going into venture. They're going in to buy a Ferrari and five Ferraris and 17 mansions. Is it a Canadian thing that kept you based, or like what allowed you to stay stable? Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, my parents for sure. It also happened so quickly. Like I came from. I mean, my parents were middle class.
Mm.
I was always the. They put me in a private school and they spent all their money on private school basically. And I would show up to school and it's the kind of school that the kids would get BMWs and
Hmm.
Mercedes at 16 when they got their driver's license, and I'm
School, yeah.
waiting on my sister to pick me up in like our beaten down Chrysler, because all of our money went to education. My parents really prized
Yeah.
that. And then when we started the company, I'm making $300 a month. So like
Hmm.
I'm not making anything. I'm eating the same bean salad lunch every day because it was cheap and would fill me up. And then all of a sudden, it all happened.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think maybe I was
20
concerned it
years
would all
ago.
go away. I don't know. I'm trying to think back to that was now 22 when I sold the company. Um, I did some traveling
Yeah.
and explored and realized that I don't want to just travel and sit on the beach. Like I want to do something. I
Yeah.
didn't even want to sell the company. My partners wanted to sell the company because they wanted to go to the U.S.
True.
as a lifestyle thing, and I'm Canadian. You
Yeah.
can't just move to the United States. So that was part of the deal. They went to the
Mm.
U.S. I didn't want to go. I wanted to stay here, and so honestly, I felt more kind of lost than jazzed.
Yeah.
Like they got to go live their life and have happiness and everything, and I like cool. Had some money. I'm not complaining about that. But I also didn't know what I wanted to do next.
Hmm.
And so the venture capital was just one thing that I said yes to that I was curious by that
Hmm.
wasn't my full, like that was me for a
YouTube
year and a
stuff.
half as I kind of
It's
tried to find
interesting.
myself of where I wanted to spend time, which then led to the website, which then led
Yeah.
to YouTube. I think I'm just risk averse
Yeah, it just wasn't your personality trait.
and
That's
didn't
that's
want to go
it's
blow it
interesting
all.
because
And I
so
didn't
with the
have
other
friends
guys,
who
they
were
were
blowing it
American.
all.
How'd they just
Uh,
they up and went to the U.S.?
yeah.
I was assuming how'd they get it that you couldn't go. You just didn't. It wasn't your thing to go, but they wanted to get up
No,
and
no,
go.
Canadian. All three of us,
Ah,
we're all Canadian.
that was your thing. Yeah.
I
Oh,
didn't want to go. Like they was there.
yeah.
They wanted to move to California. Like this was their life dream. I'm like, I love Canada. It's great. Um, and you can't just move.
Mm,
And so we
gotcha.
got part of the deal to sell the company
Oh,
was
okay.
they got jobs in California. So the company that bought sponsored them to come. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
one didn't want to go, but also I was
Hmm.
a business guy. Like I didn't need to be a part of the
New venture,
transition
man.
team
You
because I'm
landed on
not
something.
coding. I'm
You
not
know, I do
integrating
like though
anything.
about you.
And so I had to kind of
Oh,
figure out what I
100%.
wanted to do next.
That's a big shift moment.
It's an identity shift, right? It's like this was
Yeah,
who
me
I
too, man.
was.
I
I
was
was
going through
this
some stuff
guy, and
back
then
in the
it
day
goes
too. 20
away.
years
You know,
ago.
I wish I
Yeah,
had your
20 years
book or
ago,
your
I was
podcast at the
actually in a big
time.
identity shift too. I was heading off to college, 18 years old, man. I was doing some different things there. But you know, I do like though is you're a person that's chased the curiosity, right? I think a lot of people go, where am I going to find my passion? Because there's no way to hide. You're passionate about what you do now. And I've always explained to people that passion is something that comes in the backside of curiosity, right? When I believe we find our purpose, it's because the passion led us there, but the passion has to have a precursor, a catalyst somewhere. And I think the curiosity is the first part of it. What can I give energy to that doesn't drain me? It fills me up. Like, oh, I want to learn about this. So when you say I went, to this company, I didn't want to be, a person that regretted it. I was curious, right? I wanted to go into venture capital. I was curious. And then the U website, and then like, so I like that. Have you always been a person that was curious and chased it? Because most people will be curious and they will not go into something still. They'll be like, it could all go wrong, and they'll back away from it, whereas you don't. Okay.
Just quick starts. Like I love momentum. So if it's
Mm-mm.
even looking at you and your journey
Yeah.
on this show
I
and
did not.
YouTube, it's
Didn't
like
have
okay,
a
you
studio.
didn't have this studio. He had the voice.
Yeah.
He had the voice, but he didn't have the studio. You didn't have the studio. It's like, but you start,
Yeah.
and if you
Your
go back and
sheets.
watch old Trucks clips, is him,
Yeah.
the
Yeah, that's
with
true.
the flip chart and just the football coming out of his head on some of those old clips. It looks like it, but it's like you start and you
Mm.
create and you keep going. And how do you know if you like sushi?
I don't eat
You
seafood,
don't know
man.
until you try it. I mean, it sounds. If you think about sushi, it sounds gross. It's like raw fish with seaweed and fish eggs and spicy mayo. Like it sounds gross if you think about it, but then
Yeah.
you try. It's like, oh, that's actually really good. I love sushi. And so we tend to judge things before even giving it a shot. And most of us don't get enough experiences.
Yeah.
It's like you probably don't want the life that your parents had. If you look at their life now, it's like you probably don't want to be
Mm.
that. But it's the path that most of
Yeah.
us are heading down. So the difference is, are you getting enough other experiences? And so you try it once and you see,
Yeah. The long
and
term
maybe
though
you hate
too,
it.
because there's
Maybe
a
you're
part of
right. Maybe
starting it.
that's
It's
the
also a
worst thing
part
of
of
all
finishing.
time.
Like you alluded to earlier,
But you
that
won't know
people
until you
said, well,
actually start doing it.
you're making too long of videos. It's not going right. But part of you kept going with what your gut told you to do. Like what? Because a lot of people, to be honest, they'll try something. People go and they'll dive in and they go, oh, didn't work out perfectly, and then they'll find ways to step back or be a little slow, make excuses, and they'll try something else and they'll bounce around like that for years. What is the thing that allowed you to go, okay, people are telling me I'm stupid for making these videos this long. They said that I'm not doing it right, but I'm just going to stay the course. What voice was going in your head that kept you moving in that direction?
Yeah, this is like the only thing I had going for me. Like I wasn't super smart. I
Yeah.
wasn't charismatic. I was not getting any, real success, like 2,000 subscribers 5 years
Mm,
in.
mm,
The only thing I had going for me is I always focused on who I was serving instead of who I wasn't.
yeah.
So for me, it's like if I had 50 people watch the videos, like, "Dude, 50 people watching a video. Like, it's pretty cool, right? Like those are 50 real people who saw that. Like if you were
Yeah.
going to go give a speech at a library or something and 50 people showed up, at least for
Yeah.
me at the beginning, I'd be super nervous and excited to go off and do that. But when it's online, we feel like we're some kind of
Mm,
failure. And I'm ambitious and I want to grow and I want to have a huge impact. And it's great to chase numbers. but I just always focus on who I was actually helping. I think that leads to a lot more satisfaction. Doesn't mean you stay complacent and only like gratitude doesn't mean that you have to stay stuck, but it makes you feel more connected to impact. You know, like we all want to wake up and feel like today's going to matter, that we're going to do something today. Maybe we're going to make something that hits a million
Yeah,
people,
I agree.
or maybe we do something that just touches one person's life, but we want to feel like today is going to matter in
Yeah,
some way. And that's what I always just, if I saw 50
like a
views on a
reframe.
video, it's like 50
Yeah, it is
people
weird
saw
when you do
that.
that because I
You
think
know,
what
let's
happens
try
when
to
we
beat
do,
it
we see
next
that and
time,
it go
but
put something
also
out, oh,
we
like
had
100
50
people,
people.
and then
That's pretty
50
cool.
people,
So
and
that
then I
kept me
think we
going.
have those immediate like draws of like, oh, it's not big enough, and I think a lot of that comes from comparison. I think we look at individuals like yourself who go, man, this guy's got you got 3 million now, you got close to 3 million subs, it got to be now. Oh, dang. She said one up, but hey, babe, I see you. Right. So you got this. And most people go, man, I'm not at the
Three and
level
a
of
half, something like
Carmichael. I'm
that.
not
Yeah.
doing this thing. But to be honest, like the stage you're at's the necessary stage to get there. And I know I've seen your every year you put that out, what you were climbing towards and what you were building into. And I mean, I commend that because that's the journey. That I think that is those are the things that people don't grasp. Make the shifts. It's having these small moments along the way of going, I am making progress. I am getting some things done. There is some wayward motion. And as you get success, let's say you're at your level now, right? You've built this up. How do you stay in a space where it's still the desire to serve, right? Because some people, unfortunately, they get to a point of going, oh, I've arrived. I'm good. I'm chilling, right? But that is like I feel like your energy from all the time I've known you, you've grown from I think when I first met you, you were like around 1.5, 2 million subs, but now you're at like 3.5. But you have the exact same energy as then, which is it's like I'm just building, just doing my thing, I'm just growing. Like, how do you keep that energy and you don't get to that? Maybe go, how do you not get like a bigger head? We'll call it. Being honest, I mean, you see people, they all of a sudden they arrive and it's like, ah, this dude now he's gonna act
Well,
different,
thank you.
but not you, man. Like not at all, not even a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. That, you caught my tongue there. My parents, I guess. I mean, I don't know. That's just. I'm on the one hand very grateful for everything we've done, and still
Yeah.
like nothing. You know, if I want to solve the world's biggest problem, that people don't believe in themselves enough, like what have I done for that? Like it's still a huge journey ahead. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I guess it's just my parents
It's
or
a good question.
upbringing or
Yeah,
training or
I want to know the answer
Canadian
to.
or
I don't know if there is a good
hanging around
question.
with people with integrity.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know. Grateful I get to do what I do every day. To the comparison thing, like I think comparison's interesting. I think honestly, you need to have some comparison.
True.
I think if you don't have any comparison, you stay being a big fish in a small pond because you don't know what's possible. I think most people just use comparison incorrectly. They use it to kick themselves down. Like, oh well, look at Trucks and how great he is, and listen to his voice, and I
Mhm.
can't talk like that, or whatever. And then that
Mhm.
makes you stop, as opposed to using it as inspiration. So
Yeah.
like I think young Les Brown is the greatest speaker of all time for
Mhm.
me. Young Les Brown, the Georgia Dome, is like, dude, I look at that, I get inspired every time. He's my hero. Um, and I look at that and say, that's what's possible, not I could never do that. And the key with
Mhm.
comparison is to use it as an inspiration to kick yourself forward, where most people just use it to kick themselves down. But without it, there's no kick and you stay stuck. Like to know that something is possible, to see like somebody's done it, gives you hope that it's possible for other people like you to potentially go off and do it as well.
Yeah, I agree.
And
I
so
like that because I
I
think
like
it is true.
using
It's always be
comparison.
able
You just
to
have to use
humbly
it,
see
I
the
think, in a
area you
healthy
are
way to kick
not the
yourself forward
best at,
instead of
right?
kicking yourself down.
But realizing you're not a bad person, nothing wrong with you. You just have work to do. Because if not, then yeah, you would get to the perspective of like, oh, I'm good. I don't gotta do anything else, and then it's a downhill slide, and you don't even know you're too far downhill till you're too far downhill. And I like that, man. But I think I do know that unfortunately people live in a world where social media, man, it shows the highlight reels of the world. Everybody hops on and they feel less than. And the studies come out that show, like I think Instagram and Facebook knowingly hid the data that shows that it's detrimental to like teenage girls because they see the stuff that they are not, and it's like you're horrible. But no one's saying that; they just are thinking this, and so it has that dynamic where I think it is interesting that social in some aspect is skewed that way. But I do agree, like YouTube's a place where you can go and get uplifted and read something or watch something. I mean, by some amazing mind that actually inspires you to go do more. And so as you push forward and you're doing this stuff, like what are the next levels for you, right? Because you're still a guy grinding, building, growing. You did talk about a book you're in the process of writing, or have oh, you wrote it in 5 days, you said, which is very. I did 1 in 7, so you beat me, my guy. Um, but what's yeah, what's the next stages for the Believe movement and everything you got going on?
There you go. Well, yours is probably.
Yeah, me neither. I don't know, be in 10 days, bro.
I don't know. I'm honestly not a big fan of 10-year goals. Like, where are you going to be in 10 years? I have no
Yeah,
idea. You know,
yeah.
10 years ago, I don't know, I had like 500 subscribers on YouTube. Like, I would never
Hmm.
predict that I would be here. Even the book, my latest book was called Built to Serve, or is called Built to Serve, and
Yeah.
I wrote that 3 years ago. And people have been asking me when's the next book. Like, no book. Like, I'm good. Built to Serve is still the book. And then I wrote a book
Mm-hmm.
in 5 days because it poured through me and had 40,000 words in 5 days. And now the book's called Momentum, and like the idea
Mm,
came forward on
yeah.
Instagram Live I was
Hmm.
doing. And then how do you, if the theme is momentum,
I
how do you
agree.
sit on that book, right? Like I kind of have to get it up if it's called momentum. Like it can't take me 3 years to write a book on momentum. It kind of defeats the purpose, right?
Hmm.
So same thing. Like I believe in having a mission, right? Like I want to solve the world's biggest problem. People don't believe in themselves enough. How do I do that? I have no idea. It's like, and then it's mission. And what am
Here
I
we
doing
go.
right now? Right now I'm talking to Anthony Trucks. 10 years ago, I wouldn't have said I'd be here. Like 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't have said I'd be here. And here we are. And so it's always, I'm always trying to do the best I can in the platforms that mean the most, right? So
Yeah,
how do I
still
solve
is.
that problem? Well, I'm making my own videos. I still think YouTube is well,
Wow.
definitely is the best place right now. We've got the main channel. We've got a Spanish channel, a Russian channel, about to hit 1 million subs on both of those. But then also helping our friends and helping people like you, and like just pushing it out. That even if it's not me on camera, it's your
Interesting.
voice and your message getting out to the world. And
Yeah.
I just filmed a VR course that's coming out. Maybe this year, maybe next year. Um, I have the book
Awesome.
Momentum. That's dropping soon. But who knows where it's going to be? It's like I'm just mission, and then what am I working on right now that gets me jazzed up? And for whatever reason, YouTube has still
Nonstop.
been like you think, oh,
Yeah.
maybe that means you don't
Nonstop.
stay
Yeah.
consistent. Well, I've been consistent. I've been making videos for however many years, 13 years now. It's a lot of videos. Um, I just think it's still the best execution, but this is where I think people sometimes make mistake with their 10-year goals. Is that okay? What's my 10-year goal? To have 20 million YouTube subscribers or whatever it would be. But really, after year 3, I might have to hop off. The best thing for me might be to hop off YouTube and go
Yeah, I
VR or
get you. I
go
like that idea. It's more
start a
of not.
VC firm
It's
with
almost like you're
trucks
saying, I'm gonna
or
let the world come.
something
What's
else
next?
because
I
it's
know the
just
mission. I know the
better for
direction,
what
and
I
you
should
kind of
be
let the
doing.
world unfold. Because nobody knows what the world's gonna look like in 5 years, right? So how can you plan for something that's gonna be completely unclear? But I like that idea. It's like, yeah, we all grow.
Well, and not just the world, you, right? Like
True.
talk about identity shift,
Hmm.
right? Who you used to be would have a completely different career path lined up than who you are now. Like you, me, everybody. So as you go through an identity shift, all of those things shift as well. Your goals are not the same goals that you used to have. There's nothing wrong with goals. Like I think goals are
Yeah,
great.
letting everything
It's
ebb
just
and
the
flow.
willingness
And I agree,
to
man. I
to
think goals
jump
help
off the
drive us.
goal
I had
to
a guest
hit a
on
new
one time
goal
that said
because you've
goals are
had
dumb,
an
and I was like,
identity shift or the world
he
has
tried to
changed.
convince me it wasn't a good job. It's an interesting conversation because I think there is a drive. We need to have some kind of carrot, which was interesting. Is like we should have goals. We should have directives or something like that. I was like, but that's still a goal. Like I know what I'm trying to get done. Like there's a direction I'm going. It was very interesting. But no, I agree that because yeah, yeah,
It's just the willingness to jump off. Like if your goal was to
gotta
be
do
a,
something
a
else.
Hall of Famer,
I
cool.
agree
That's a great
because most
goal
of us
while
will get
you're
stuck in
while you're in
something,
the
and then
league.
that
But
will eat
then
us because
now
I
you're
can't
not
do
in the
that
league.
thing. And
Like that's not the goal. It
no,
can't be
man,
the
I
goal
agree.
anymore.
There's a joy to
Yeah.
life when you actually get to ride like the ride. Not just say, like this is the only thing there is, but actually be okay getting off and hopping on something new. I've always told people like I love to identify with the effort I give in life. It's not the outcome. The outcome's gonna come. There's gonna be multiple different ones, but if I can identify as the guy who gives the effort, the guy who tries, the guy who jumps in, like then even if I falter, someone goes, ah ha ha, look, you failed. I go, no, no, man, I tried. like I did the best I could in the moment. It didn't pan out, but like there's nothing wrong with me. I'm gonna keep on moving, and you win the long game from that.
Kanye had a great. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah,
it's
Kanye was
true.
asked about a failure that he had on a fashion
Yeah.
line or something. He's like, the willingness to try is an inspiration. which it
Yeah.
is, and that's how you keep going too. Like, how do you keep going when the numbers aren't coming in? Because you're not focused on the results. You're
Inevitable.
focused on, did you put in the effort? Are you proud of the effort you showed up with every day? Because if you keep putting in the effort on
Yeah,
almost
it's an
anything,
age
right?
window.
Like,
It's hard to go
I'm
back.
not actually going to be a punter in the league, so but we'll take that
Yeah.
off the table. But like,
Mm-mm.
but most things, like, it's is capable. Like,
Yeah.
if somebody
It's really what
wanted
it
to
is,
be
man.
a
It boils down to it.
YouTuber, it's
It's funny
definitely
because you have your
capable. Is
thing
it too late?
momentum. I have a new
Absolutely
thing we're
not.
working on called dark work,
Just the
which I
effort. Are
think
you
is
willing to put
all
it
the
in?
things that we do that lead to an identity shift. It's the things I do that are uncelebrated, unsexy, unsupported by our friends and family sometimes. But
Ooh,
that stuff done long term, that has momentum, it creates not just a new outcome, but a new person in time. So, like, I agree, man. Dark work. It's a book. It's a new podcast. It's a whole new series on
dark
maybe a YouTube
work.
series. A whole bunch of stuff. I
I
trademarked a
like.
whole bunch of
Is that a
stuff. Yeah,
book coming up,
it's gonna be
Anthony?
fun, man. I'm having a blast. Genuinely
Let's
having a
go.
great time digging into the research and the cool stories of different people. Because all people we know, yourself included, there are things that we did that no one knows we did that really are the reason we're so successful. And I think in the social media world we live in now, there's such this skew to document everything that we're removing our focus, time, and mastery. And so, because of that, we're not gaining the skill sets or gaining the confidence to deploy those skill sets. And it's not about not showing the world anything. It's about being able to focus your time and go dark when you need to, so you can emerge in the light with that confidence to share something at a bigger level. So, there's some cool things I'm spinning up in there, and it's been a blast to play with it. But that's the thing is the direction has changed. Not a change. Like I'm still in the same identity path, but there is nuances. The goal is a little bit different of
I
how I
like
want
it.
to communicate it. So I agree, man, in full real time. Dude, man, I could talk to you for hours. Like quite literally. I can't wait I was talking to Brendan yesterday, so we're gonna be doing something here pretty soon. So I'm looking forward to getting some dates so we can all hang out again in the future. But I do have a final question. I ask everybody, and you can take it wherever you want, and then you just hear the question, answer how you choose. Here's the question: what promise did God make to the world when He created you?
Wow, Jesus, what a question.
Yeah,
Um, what promise did God make to the
I wish I
world when He
could.
created me?
I like it.
Wow,
Yeah,
trucks, you're gonna make me blush here. Jesus.
it's a good one,
I
man.
mean,
Simple, clean,
spread more
powerful.
believe.
Because it is a question about
Spread
where,
more
how do we
believe.
show up in the world,
You're
right?
on a
And I
mission.
think there's
It's not
a
about
powerful
you.
thing
Get
when
it out to
we,
the world.
even if we don't want to do it, but we know we're meant to do it, and we do it, right? You find a way to lean into it, and eventually become something. Because I think all of us enjoy feedback that's positive from the world. If you're doing something the world loves that you're doing, like it's a special spot. And I think if you find the thing you're meant to do, that God put you here to do, it flows out of you almost effortlessly. So great answer, man. Yeah,
Well, and tapping into it honestly, like, makes it. I mean, maybe I'm ruining your last question by
yeah,
going over, but like, that honestly always
yeah.
serves me when I'm in doubt and struggling. It's like, it's not about
True.
me. Like, I need to show up because it's in service to
I
the
agree.
people.
I
Whenever
literally do that every time I
you'll
get on
show up
stage
more for other
nowadays.
people than you would for
I
yourself.
tell
If you can
people, I
attach
said,
service
well, matter
to
of fact,
the
was
work you're
a
doing,
recent speech
you're
in
much
San
more likely
Diego.
to follow
Someone goes,
through.
"Are you nervous before you go up there?" I go, "I'm not." They go, "How are you not nervous? There's like thousands of people." I go, because the moment I get up there, it's not about me anymore. It's really about how can I make sure I'm giving you what you're here to get. Like I'm not taking time from you. If I'm worried about me, I'm thinking about my shoes and my how am I moving. And when you cut that out completely and you go to service, it all flows, man. It's much better that way. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you gotta. I have
See
to
it.
do mental jujitsu to get
All
myself
right.
there.
All right.
This
Yeah.
axe was a gift from Ed Milet, and I got an axe behind me. Ed Milet and Andy Frisella have this thing,
Mm,
Arate group, It- and that was my last speaking gig before COVID hit and everything shut down, and their speaker list was
yeah.
all private. Like, even the speakers don't know who's going to speak, and I show up there,
Oh
and they put
wow.
me up in this beautiful, suite and everything. And next day I go and speak, and before me is David Goggins, and after me is Peyton
Yeah.
Manning. Like, are you kidding me? I'm sandwiched between, like, the most intense
Oh
human of all time and, like, the greatest quarterback of all time, and immediately all the self doubt. Like,
yeah.
what are you gonna say? Like, how do
Nothing.
you even stand out between these two
Yeah.
guys? And it just came down. Listen, it's service. I'm here to help these guys. Peyton Manning knows nothing about YouTube. I'm going
Oh
to come
man,
and
it's
help
just
these
practice,
people.
dude. It wasn't always like
And
that.
then
It
that
was
gets
not
me. So
always
the
like
fact that you
that.
can
But this
get there
point, man,
right
it's a big
away,
flow.
I'm envious that
Dude,
I
man,
got
thank you so
some
much for
learning to
hanging
do
out.
from you.
Seriously, I appreciate you. I'm gonna make it to Canada one of these days, man. I've been to Russia and South Korea and Philippines. I've never been to my neighbor up north. It's so weird. Yeah. I'm down. I get a trampoline to stand on too, though. Yeah,
Come on. Well, I got a room with your
I
name on
love
it
it.
whenever you're ready, man.
I might take you up on that, man. Those of you guys who are tuned
You
in, hanging out
can.
with us.
Yeah, you
Thank you
can. I
also
just
for
had a
hanging
guest
out
over and
because
he
you could have been
used my
doing anything
studio
with your time,
to
but you
film.
chose to
So
come and hang with us
definitely.
here. If this episode in some way helped you, benefited you in any way, I would love for you to share it, review it, rate it, all the great things so we can get more people to consume it, to get this content out of the world. And also, if you know someone who needs to hear this specifically and you can't reach them, let Evan's words reach them. Just seriously take a copy of the link and put in their little DM and then send it on over, or just pop it out to the rest of the world in your feed because it's that simple to change a life. And so, man, again, thank you, Evan. Thank you for hanging out with us. And as always, make the most of your off shift moments so you can make shift happen. It's Anthony Trucks and Evan Carmichael signing off. Hey, thank you for tuning in to the Awe Shift podcast. I pray that we gave something amazing to your life. And if you found this episode served you in some way, I would love if you could share it with people you know, people you love, as well as your community, because you never know who needs that simple little seed that can grow into something amazing for their life. And the actual training doesn't stop here. If you want your free copy of the show notes sent to you after every episode so you can get the major points consolidated down, simply go to textanthony.com and message the word notes. Till next time, make shift happen.